Ireland's official body to counter Electoral's so-called disinformation failed to provide even a single example of disinformation when asked. This is Ben Scallan and you're watching Gript Media. Before we start the video, please consider signing up via the link on screen to become a Gript Premium member, which comes with all sorts of perks and helps us to pay the bills and survive day to day. And also, please leave a like and leave a comment to help us in the algorithm. And so with that said, on to the video. Ireland's Electoral Commission was established by the government in February of this year to fulfil a variety of roles, most of which are fairly boring and mundane. For example, reviewing constituency boundaries, registering political parties, and that sort of thing. However, the Commission also has another remit, namely fighting supposedly misleading information during election time.
And addressing misinformation, disinformation in the online space, as well as managing and monitoring online political advertising.
As reported by the Irish Times last year, social media giants such as Facebook, Twitter and Instagram will be forced to take down misleading information at election time under proposed legislation. The Electoral Reform Bill 2022 envisages the Electoral Commission having the power to investigate online claims that amount to disinformation at election times. It will be able to order social media outlets to take down offending posts, correct them or label them as potential misinformation. It would also be able to order any host of any online platform to publish a statement informing all readers of manipulative or inauthentic behaviour or the use of an undisclosed bot. What's more, the CEO of the Commission, Art O'Leary, recently said that such disinformation was being spread at a, quote, enormous scale. As reported by the journal.ie recently, the head of Ireland's Electoral Commission has warned that disinformation around elections is at an enormous scale. Art O'Leary, the CEO of the Electoral Commission of Ireland, said that the key to fighting the risk to elections was by his newly formed organisation engaging with state entities but also with academics and media organisations. Now, this is very interesting, however, as when asked by myself to provide examples of statements made during Irish elections and referendum campaigns that the group considers to be misinformation or disinformation, a Commission spokesman simply replied with an explanation of what the terms mean, which is of course not an answer to my question. When asked again if any specific examples of disinformation could be provided, the group simply replied, "Our work and functions since our establishment in February focus exclusively on upcoming electoral events." So in other words, they have no examples. Despite their CEO saying that the scale of cases is enormous, there are apparently so many cases they can't name a single one. And by the way, I also asked if this policy would apply to broken electoral promises as well, because one could argue that that's an egregious form of electoral misinformation. For example, for years, Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin said that the best interests of the Irish people are not served by a government made up of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael.
The best interests of the Irish people are not served by a government made up of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. We made this promise consistently in advance of the election that we would not go into government with Fine Gael, and remaining consistent and true to that commitment that we made.
On January 23rd, 2020, just 16 days before a general election, Martin insisted emphatically that he would not go into government with Fine Gael.
So we will not be entering into a grand coalition. The people want change. It's very clear the message we're receiving. People want change in this country. They want Fine Gael out of office. I've made it very clear we want to go into government with other centre parties. Clearly the Labour and Green parties are the ones that we would be interested in going into government with. Obviously it's to be determined by the people and others as well. That is our very clear position. That is our position. Fine Gael need to come out of government. They've been there too long. They haven't delivered on the key issues such as housing, health, and the impact of costs, in the cost of living on so many people.
And then after getting elected, what did he do?
The Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin has become the country's 15th Taoiseach, leading a coalition with Fine Gael and the Green Party into government.
And who knows how many people voted for Fianna Fáil on the basis of Martin's false promise. A promise which barely survived 2 weeks and which was cast aside as as soon as he had power. And yet, when I asked the Electoral Commission if broken promises like these constituted misinformation at election time, they refused to say, which I think says it all. While the organisation is officially independent of government, it is reporting directly to the Oireachtas, and a large number of its members are nominated by the government. One of the Commission's members is John Curran, who is a former government junior minister who served as a Fianna Fáil TD as recently as 2020. Another is Professor Caroline Fennell, who is an academic that was recently appointed as the chair of the Independent Anti-Racism Committee, which delivered the government's National Action Plan Against Racism, including recommendations around hate speech laws. This newly created organisation has powers which will come into effect on a phased basis, and it will likely become a force in Irish politics in coming elections and referenda. You know, on the topic of misleading content, I previously interviewed Green Party Media Minister Catherine Martin on the government's strategy against misinformation, during which she repeatedly refused to say whether or not the strategy would target potential false statements by mainstream media outlets, for example, such as RTE.
That would kind of fall under the purview of fake news or misinformation, one would imagine. Would the government be going after, say, the Irish Times or RTE if they publish something false?
This working group is a direct result of a recommendation of the Future Media Commission. So it's to look at countering misinformation that is damaging to Irish society and to democracy. There are key stakeholders involved. There will be public consultation, but it's about looking at emerging threats when it comes to misinformation. It's a global issue. It's not just an Irish issue. It's looking at what exactly is misinformation. What is disinformation? It's looking at the application of the EU Code of Practice on Disinformation. It's looking at the application, an analysis of the Digital Services Act. So that's what this is. It's a I suppose a direct result of a recommendation.
But that would include the mainstream media as well. That the government would put equal scrutiny on mainstream publications and broadcasters as they would on like individual citizens.
All news agencies will be consulted on this. That's part of the terms of reference of this working group.
Sure, but not consulted. I mean, would the scrutiny be on them that if a mainstream publication publishes something that's false, that this misinformation strategy would be there to counteract that as well as, say, random people on Telegram groups?
This is about fact checking and assisting in fact checking, and so that is part of that.
I think that answer, or lack thereof, kind of says it all, doesn't it? The reluctance to say whether or not this policy will impact on mainstream media kind of suggests that the purpose of this quote-unquote fact-checking is for little people like you and me. The corporate media will be free to say whatever they like, true or untrue, while the public will be put under the microscope to see if what they said is deemed acceptable by the state. Between this and hate speech laws, it's clear which way this country is going, and soon freedom of speech may be a thing of the past. Please like and share this video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider signing up for a monthly donation via the link on screen to help us produce more content like this. Alternative media like Gript needs all the assistance it can get, and every donation goes a long way. As always, thanks for watching.